Rohan was a young man, just 23 years old. But even though he was young, he felt very weak. Every day he felt tired and out of energy. He couldn't do anything without getting exhausted. He would sit on his couch all day, looking at his phone or watching television, feeling lazy and unmotivated. He often ate junk food and drank soda. He didn't care much about his health, but deep down he knew something was wrong. He wasn't happy with his body or his lifestyle. One afternoon, Rohan was walking down the street, minding his own business. Suddenly, a football came flying towards him. The ball hit him in the face, and it knocked all his groceries to the ground. A group of kids were playing football nearby, and they laughed when it happened. Rohan felt embarrassed and angry. He couldn't believe it. He was just standing there, and a football hit him. It was as if life was telling him, "You are weak." This moment made him feel even worse about himself. As Rohan was trying to gather his groceries, one of the kids shouted, "Hey uncle, are you okay?" Rohan was only 23 years old. He wasn't old enough to be called uncle. The words hurt his feelings more than the ball had. He looked at himself in the mirror later that day, and for the first time, he truly realized how weak he had become. This was the moment he knew he needed to change. Later that same day, Rohan saw an old man struggling with a heavy grocery bag. The old man was having a hard time carrying it, so Rohan decided to help. But when he tried to lift the bag, he couldn't. It was too heavy. He felt his arms shaking, and his back was aching. Rohan wanted to help, but his body wouldn't cooperate. He felt embarrassed once again, not just because of the old man, but because he was so weak. Rohan tried again and again, but he couldn't lift the bag. He felt so weak and helpless. He watched the old man struggle and felt ashamed. He was young, but he couldn't even help with something simple like carrying groceries. It was a terrible feeling. He realized that something had to change. Then, just as Rohan was about to give up, a young man passed by. He saw what was happening and walked over. Without any trouble, the young man picked up the bag with one hand and handed it to the old man. The old man smiled and thanked him. Rohan watched, amazed. This young man was strong and confident, and Rohan realized that if he wanted to be like him, he needed to start working on himself. Before leaving, the old man looked at Rohan and said, "Son, if you want to live a strong life, you must first make your body strong." Rohan thought about these words all night. He knew the old man was right. If he didn't change, his life would stay weak. This was the wake-up call he needed. Stood in front of the mirror, staring at his body. His muscles were soft, and his face looked tired. He had always avoided looking at himself this way, but tonight was different. Tonight, he faced the truth. He didn't like what he saw. He knew that to change his life, he needed to change his body. Rohan grabbed his phone and started searching. He searched, "How can I become stronger?" He found many videos online of people who had transformed their bodies. One video caught his attention. It was about an old man in his 70s who was doing push-ups. Rohan couldn't believe it. This man was much older than him, and yet he was stronger. If this old man could do it, maybe Rohan could too. By the video, the old man's strength gave him hope. He thought, If he can do it, so can I. Rohan knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to start. This was the first step toward changing his life. The very next day, Rohan decided to take the first step toward change. He put on his old dusty sneakers and went outside to start exercising. It was early in the morning and the air was fresh. Rohan was nervous because he hadn't exercised in so long, but he was also excited to begin his journey. His goal was simple. He just wanted to feel strong and healthy. So, he started by going for a short run in the park. Rohan started jogging, but after just a few minutes, he felt like his legs were made of lead. He was out of breath, and his heart was racing. He slowed down and had to stop. He looked around, embarrassed, but no one was watching. He took a deep breath and told himself, "This is just the beginning. I have to keep going." Even though it was hard, he made a promise to himself. He wouldn't give up. After the run, Rohan tried to do some push-ups. He lay down on the ground and pushed himself up. But after only 5 push-ups, his arms felt like they were going to give out. He collapsed on the grass, out of breath. But instead of giving up, he got back up and tried again. Each time, he did just a little more. He was determined to get stronger, no matter how hard it was. Days passed, and Rohan didn't stop. Every day, he ran a little farther and did more push-ups. His body was sore, but he was getting stronger. The more he worked out, the better he felt. His clothes started to fit better, and he could see a little more muscle in his arms and legs. He could feel his body changing, and it made him feel proud. He wasn't weak anymore. One afternoon, Rohan walked down the same street where he had once felt weak and embarrassed. This time, he felt different. His posture was straight, his muscles were stronger, and his confidence had grown. The people walking by didn't even recognize him at first. He had changed so much. The old street, once filled with memories of weakness, now felt like the place where his new, stronger life began. As Rohan walked, he saw the same group of bullies who had teased him before. They were standing in the street, making fun of an old street vendor. Rohan felt the anger rise inside him. These were the same people who had laughed at him for being weak. But now, Rohan was strong, and he wasn't going to let them bully anyone anymore. One of the bullies saw Rohan and started to walk towards him. Rohan stood his ground. The bully tried to push him, but Rohan didn't move. He was strong now. With one quick motion, Rohan pushed the bully back, surprising him. The other bullies watched, shocked. They had never seen Rohan like before. Rohan didn't say a word, but his actions spoke louder than anything. The bullies backed off and walked away. Later that day, Rohan met the old man again. The old man smiled and said, "You have become a strong man. I knew you could do it." Rohan smiled back. He felt proud of how far he had come. His body had changed, and so had his mind. He was no longer weak. He was now the kind of person who could stand up for what was right. Rohan continued his fitness journey, and it became a part of his life. Every day, he worked hard to stay strong and healthy. He made new friends at the gym, and people started noticing how much he had changed. Rohan didn't just look different, he felt different too. He had a new sense of confidence and purpose. His life had completely turned around, and he knew it was all because he decided to take control of his body and his future. Rohan's story is a reminder that it's never too late to start. You don't have to be weak or lazy. If you start today, you can become strong. Whether it's your body, your mind, or your life, you have the power to change it. Just like Rohan, you can take that first step toward a better you.